Tonight, a travel nightmare. Flights everywhere are getting delayed and canceled.
Airlines have canceled thousands of flights this week.
The airlines are going to see massive delays and cancellations moving forward today.
You can hear me. My name is Andre Jordan, and I am a survivor of the Winter Storm Travel Disruption 2022. I'm somewhere, coordinates unknown. Music plays eerily in the background. We'll not go quietly into the night. We're going to live on. You can see the remnants of society. Some sort of luxury brand. Look, there's another survivor. He entertains himself just to keep his sanity, I assume. Look, friend or foe. Artifacts. If anybody can still hear me, it's day 2 or day 3 of the Winter Travel Disruption 2022. My name is Andre Jordan, and I found myself in a desolate land that looks to be volcanic in nature. Eerily quiet. I'm gonna try to search for life or some sort of remnants of society that I can use to survive and live on. Rations are running low. I gotta figure out how to survive here. Oh, looks like I found an artifact from modern society. I think I might be able to make something work out of this. In survival situations, you have to be able to make do about anything that you come across when you're scavenging, especially in a post-apocalyptic world. I think this is called an automobile. Here we are, day 4 in this post-apocalyptic world of the Winter Travel Disruption 2022. I've already begun to forage. Last time y'all checked in, I found a relic of modern society. I've already started to assemble and form my own tribe. I've begun to go feral, and I've started the Mohawk. It's going to be called a Mohawkular tribe. And I see somebody coming up. I don't know. I hear them calling. I don't know what they're saying, but just in case they're foe, I need to try to hide. Well, everyone, it in fact is the new Z. Hope you enjoyed my little intro. It's Dr. Dre coming at you again with another video for Speed Doc 713. I'm out here on the Big Island of Hawaii. Actually did endure a winter travel disruption. Trying to get out here due to crew restrictions or crew rest requirements. Flight was delayed from Houston about an hour, which in turn caused a misconnection at LAX. As our plane was pulling in, the connecting flight to Maui was pushing back, so ended up missing. But during the Christmas holidays, there are no seats. Now, you know, I was on United. Shout out to United, because being a Premier 1K, you have a dedicated phone line to call for these type of things. And I'm not an amateur, y'all. So when I get ready to travel, and I'm an airplane enthusiast, I know exactly what all the flights are doing that day that I could possibly need to be on. So I knew every flight and every type of aircraft that was flying from all the United hubs to the islands in the event that something like this happened, right? So, you know, I called the Premier 1K, and I did have to kind of push a little bit, because what they were trying to do at first was to get me rebooked on a flight that was going to get me to Kona the next night. You know, at that point, I might as well turn around and come home. So I said, no, give me anywhere to the islands except Hilo, and I can get a flight over to Kona on Hawaiian or Southwest. I don't know about that. I'm glad that wasn't the case. They ended up rebooking me in first on a 777 that was delayed by 5 hours from LAX to Honolulu. So what I ended up doing in Honolulu, they had me connecting onto a flight that left at 5:45 in the morning on Hawaiian over to Kona. Now, got to Honolulu at 1:30 in the morning. Now, there's nothing open at that time. It was nothing but stranded folks in the airport. All we could do was sit down in the reclining chairs or whatever, the massaging chairs, and wait for 4.5, 5 hours till it was time to check in for the Hawaiian flight. So therefore, finally got here the next morning like it's sunrise. Now, car rented, you know, jump right on into the car review action, which some of you are here for. Ended up seeing this brand new Nissan Z pop up on Turo. So let's take a look at it. Now, this car here is a 2023 Nissan Z. What's different between this car and the outgoing 370Z is the fact that this car has the twin turbo, I believe it's a 3.0 liter V6 that's shared with the Infiniti cousins, the Q60 coupe and whatnot. And so this car is making 400 horsepower, 400 twin turbocharged horsepower. Now, this car is a greatest hits of sorts. You know, if you guys are a fan of the Nissan Z, then you'll see a lot of heritage in it. You know, the front end was inspired by the 240Z. You can tell in the headlights here and the square grille. You've got the carryover interior from the 370Z, as well as the vertical door handles from the 370. Then the tail end, this is the one that everybody really likes. Tail end is lifted straight from, or inspired by, the 300ZX from 1989 to 1996, which is actually my favorite Z generation. So let's take a look here. Let's start here by going to the back. Reach in there. Got your rear strut brace, and they've incorporated this nice cargo loom here. Now, This Z is actually carryover. A lot of this Z is carryover from the last Z, to be honest. It's more of a refresh than anything, but it's a welcome refresh because the last Z, the 370, which was kind of a refresh 350, it had been out since like 2003. So it's a long time coming. Now, I was a fan of the last Z. The last motor, I feel like, had finally been, I guess, evolved to the point that it couldn't be evolved anymore. So that car was nice and torquey, but it was starting to become unrefined, and it had a dead spot. It didn't rev high, and so it would run out of steam at the high RPMs. This car here has a slightly different driving characteristic, which I appreciate. Now, this door panel here is carryover from the 370 almost identically. Now, this gentleman, he spec'd this car. Now, this is the only Z on the island right now. The only new Z on the island. So I don't know, I haven't really looked to see what the different models are, but all the models that I've seen reviewed so far by journalists are the top spec models with the leather interior. This has the cloth interior. Now, as I get in here, that's carryover from the last 370, which is also, you know, heritage inspired. This one is the automatic car, start, stop. One of the things that I noticed that was a nice heritage piece from other Z models, or from other Z models really, is this cloth here. This here, on all the magazines and the journalists and the YouTube videos I've seen, this was in leather, with the cars that have the leather package or whatever trim package that is. But this cloth up on the dash that's carryover from the seats on up, this is actually throwback to the 300ZX. The 300ZX also had a similar pattern, that where the carpet came all the way up to the dash. So I always found that was really interesting. You know, didn't really care for it in that car, but in this I really do like it. So let's go ahead and power it up. Now, this car has a lot of safety features. It's got the blind spot assist, and if I do this, you've got the forward collision detection, and you've also got the lane change. Now, this car will intervene with the brakes, and I want to say it'll intervene with the steering motion if you go over, or you'll get a little haptic feedback, right? So I found that pretty interesting for a car at this level. Now, these 3 gauges are pretty interesting. You've got 2 gauges up there. Honestly, I feel like Nissan just needed something to put in those gauges for heritage sake, but you've got a boost gauge to the left to let you know how much PSI your turbos are putting out. Then you've got a turbo speed indicator in the middle, and then you've got a voltmeter. Now, nobody has ever needed to know the RPM of their turbine blades in their turbos, much less, really, the voltmeter is a little bit redundant as well. But hey, that might have more relevance than I don't know. I don't ever really check the voltmeter in my own car, so, you know, I guess if the battery is dead, it's dead. The boost gauge, though, is nice to have. They'll let you know if you have any issues. You know, back in the JDM days and the tuner days, we used to spend money to add boost gauges to the car, all up on the A-pillar here. Now, if you notice, you know, you put this in gear, parking, put it in park that way, put it in gear, reverse, drive. So when you want to have a more aggressive feedback or more aggressive throttle input, then you go ahead and utilize this selector down there. They call it the D mode. When you actuate the D mode, more thrust, I guess, comes through. So I guess it is named appropriately. So let's go for a little drive, y'all. Now, let me go ahead and let y'all see the Molecular Tribe in action in full effect. You see what I'm saying? Now, my driving impression of this car, it's a mixed bag. I've been driving it for the past, I don't know, 3-4 days. The natural competitor to this car is going to honestly be the Supra, the Toyota Supra. Which, I mean, that's the perfect competitor to it. You know, if you talk about just sports cars in this price range, you got cars like the Mustang, EcoBoost, and maybe entry-level GTs. You could cross-shop it, I guess, with Camaros and Challengers, but I don't like to consider those competitors, really, because those are muscle cars. And muscle cars drive slightly different. You know, you can get a Mustang that handles pretty good, that's pretty agile. You can get a Camaro that handles pretty good and pretty agile. You can't get a Challenger to do that, but you can get a Challenger to go pretty quick in a straight line. But those cars don't have the same feedback and lightness that, you know, honestly, a foreign car does. The thing about the Mustangs and the Camaros that handle really well, you're going to pay a big premium for those cars. Now, Camaro, you can get the 1LE package, which gives you a nice handling upgrade and all the trim specs, really, on all the engine choices. But those, you know, those can get kind of pricey. And honestly, having driven those cars, they don't drive as well as this for what you get, right? I've driven the Supra. Now, if we start talking about the Supra is a BMW, right? I personally don't think there's anything wrong with that because BMW makes a hell of a product. I don't like the way they look. BMW's design language in the past few years has really been garbage to me. It's really trash. You know, y'all can fight about it and argue about it in the comment section, but there's no BMW out right now that I would buy that I think actually looks good. However, the motors are solid. They're powerful. They can put down power. You can get power out of them by modifying them, and they still handle pretty well. You know, BMW likes to say they're the ultimate driving machine. I don't believe all that, but they are very good, okay, in terms of their driving experience. So for the new Supra to actually drive that, you know, to be based off of BMW, I don't have a problem with that. You know, hold on, let's see here. This post-apocalyptic world is wild, y'all. That might need to be the Molecular Tribe's mascot. But, you know, as I'm followed by a Subaru. But anyway, as I was saying before, we had to let the new mascot for the Moleculars cross. The Supra being based on a BMW is not a problem to me. The only thing I would need the Supra being based on a BMW to be able to be is reliable. It's a Toyota, and that's what Toyota is known for. BMW is not known for being reliable, so time will tell if they were able to make a powertrain and a setup that will live up to Toyota reliability, okay? Now, the Supra is rated at 382 horsepower. They just introduced a stick shift version, which the Z is available in the stick shift as well. And the Supra also has a 4-cylinder available. The 4-cylinder Supra is priced about what this car is priced, but it has 100 or so less horsepower. And it does 0 to 60 in probably, I want to say, 4.5 seconds. But the driving experience, from what I can understand, is underwhelming in that car with that motor. They tell you go ahead and get the BMW 230 or whatnot that it's based on. The V6 Turbo Supra, though, is actually fast. That car, I mean, that car punches way above its weight class all day long. I was very impressed with how that car drove. It feels like a car that's making, they say 382 horsepower, whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if that's 382 horsepower at the wheels, because it drove every bit of a 420 horsepower car, at least to me. I mean, it had a lot of thrust. You could tell that the Supra was making more power than advertised. The problem I had with the Supra was that it was tight. Now, it's a sports car, so I want a sports car to be small and handle well and all that kind of stuff. But it was like, in fact, I found it easier to get in and out of a Miata versus the new Supra. You know, I'm not a small guy. So I'm not the biggest man in the world, but I'm not small either. When I went to go to put gas in the Supra, I had to try to wait till people weren't looking. So because there was no graceful way to get in and out of the Supra. It just wasn't. If I was a smaller dude, shorter or something, maybe, but the Supra was not comfortable. And then if you're in there with a passenger, it wasn't comfortable. Nor should it be. I mean, the BMW it's based on is the Z4, Roadster, so the Supra was a very tight car. Fit and finish inside the Supra was first rate. Fit and finish of the Supra was great. The interior design of the Supra was cool, but I actually like this interior more. The Supra felt like the materials were a little bit better quality, but not by much. It wasn't like, this isn't exactly second rate bargain bin, bargain basement stuff in here. Like, this car is actually pretty well put together. I find it more put together and nicer materials than, say, a Mustang. Definitely, I feel like the fit and finish in here and the material quality is better than the current Mustang, and I think that it's on par. I think the Camaro's on par with this, but the Camaro doesn't look as good inside to me. The Camaro still looks a little bit down market. This has a more upscale feel to me. I've always liked the 350 and 370Z interiors anyway. Now, thing about this car that I like, it feels larger than what it is. Side by side, this car and the Supra seem like they're about the same size, but the interior of this car is much more roomy. It's like the headroom is better in here. The luggage room is better. I mean, you got elbow room. Like, this is actually a nice car. It's kind of tough because what happens with a car like this, you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to price shop this with the Supra, this car wins, because this car is priced along the base Supra that has 100 and something less horsepower. So you get the same 400 horsepower no matter which Z trim you get. And the Z comes in several different trims, but the horsepower numbers are the same, right? So when you look at a package like that, that's pretty compelling. Basically, to get a Supra with the features that this car has with the same amount of horsepower, you're probably going to spend $10,000 more, to be perfectly honest. So that makes a compelling case. Now, the Supra is faster. The Supra depends on your, looks are subjective. I like the way the Supra and this new Z look. I actually like the way the new Z looks more than this. So, but some people like the way the Supra looks more. Tunability, the Supra has more tunability, but this car is tunable as well, right? Handling wise, I feel like the new Supra handles better. I feel like it's quicker. The materials inside the new Supra are better than this. Resale value on the Supra is undoubtedly going to be better. So it really begs a question, besides the whole tight egress and ingress of the car, it begs the question why, if I had to choose between the Supra and the Z, why would I choose the Z? I would actually buy the Z over the Supra based solely on the interior, room, and how it looks. I really do like the design of this Nissan Z. I've got nothing but thumbs up on this car. Now, granted, it's brand new, so people are going to do that, but I really love the way this car looks. This car is probably a mid-level spec, so it's got the 18-inch wheels, but man, I can imagine it with like a chin spoiler and some nice 19s, or it dropped a little bit. I imagine this car would really perform well. Like, what it does feel like to me when I drive this car is that this car is waiting for a lot of miles to be thrown at it. And I feel like it'll take a car that's probably, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of sports cars, this car is probably a 6 or a 7. I mean, considering that the market that this car is in, I think it's a competent choice. I think it's actually putting up a hell of an argument. You know, if you want a sports car, this makes a hell of a case for itself. And honestly, if I didn't go, or if, you know, my numbers weren't looking the way I needed them to look to get into the 911 that I got, then I would have ordered me a new Z, you know, and I wouldn't have thought twice about it. Like, I really like this car. I would go black, red leather, or something like that. It'd be dope, you know. So all in all, I think that if you fool with a Z, you won't be upset. It won't disappoint you. If you want to get more power out of it, you definitely could. You know what? Before I go, here's one thing. Here's my biggest gripe about the Z. They say it's 400 horsepower. This car doesn't feel like 400 horsepower. It feels like a car that's maybe, I don't know, 300. It feels like 300 horsepower. I don't know. It doesn't feel like a 400 horsepower car. Like, it doesn't snap you back in your seat, you know. But it's competent, you know. It's quick. It's quick enough for the average person, so you can't go wrong with it. But it just doesn't feel as torquey and as powerful as like the Supra or other cars that are 400 horsepower. But go test drive one. I don't think you'll be disappointed in it. I think it's a great car. Like I said, if I didn't go 911, I definitely would have ordered a new Nissan Z without hesitation. I'm glad I was able to drive it. If you're interested in this Z, it's available for rent on Turo here on the Big Island of Hawaii. You know, picked it up. The gentleman dropped it off at Kona Airport the morning I arrived after the winter travel disruption 2022. So stay tuned. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Got a little bit more content coming at you, so look forward to chatting with y'all in the comment section below. Peace.